What's going on, boys? It is day number 6 of reading through the book of Luke. Today we are going to be reading through one of my favorite sets of verses, the infamous Sermon on the Mount. Now, I will say that this particular chapter is a condensed version of the Sermon on the Mount. The actual extended version is in the book of Matthew, chapter 5 through 7, if you want to go read the extended and more kind of prolonged version of it. But I will say that this entirety of verses and particular speech that Jesus makes towards a large group of people is just so powerful, especially when we are feeling just kind of pressed with all sorts of emotions and things that are going on around us. So chapter 6 is a bit of a longer chapter, but I want to kind of split this up into 3 different categories, 3 of which are some of the different sections that take place when Jesus is speaking to, in particular speaking to his disciples and to people who have come from around the regions, from places around Jerusalem, Sidon, Judea, and some from the coastal regions of Tyre, and just many other little towns and villages that are around this place. And they're up on this mount, this kind of high place, and Jesus is preaching to them. And there's many different things that he preaches, one of which he preaches about is love. So the 3 sections we're going to talk about is love, judgment, and production. With love, about loving our enemies. So I want to read these set of verses real quick, and then I want to kind of take a little dive deep on what that means to love those who are around us. Verse 35 through 36, but love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. And then my 2 notes that I put down, show mercy to all, for you were shown mercy first by God. And then do not portray grievance towards those who disagree with you, towards those who you disagree with. So a couple things to note from this. When it comes to loving our enemies, loving those who may not be Christian, those who may not necessarily agree with us, this can be a bit challenging at times. But what we have to remember is that all of us are human. All of us are facing some sort of spiritual battle that is kind of complying or kind of forming this particular barrier that is preventing us from being the person that we want. And I can say that it is a very challenging thing. This is one thing that I have set as one of my goals this year, is to love my neighbors better, love my companions better, love the people around me better. And this is challenging for me, just because it is very difficult to go around and show people love and mercy. And I think this is bigger than just going and telling someone that you love them. I think this is more of, how can I serve you well? Because of what God has done for me, I feel that it is my priority to assure that you experience the same kind of love that was shown to me. And I think this goes as far about as understanding that we're all facing things. Understanding that love is more than just a feeling. Love is an action. Love is a thing that we portray through the actions. There's a famous saying, if we really love something, if we really feel something, that we're going to do anything for it. We're going to show that you love something. Show that you love somebody. So maybe you're in a relationship or a marriage, and you love someone that much that you're going to say, because I love you, I'm going to do this for you. You look at Jesus, he loved us so much that he gave himself on the cross for us. Now it is our job to say, okay, if I love the people around me enough, what am I going to do? Am I going to serve? Am I going to preach? Am I going to provide? What am I going to do? And so I think this can be very difficult for us to identify. So if this is something that you're dealing with, I would recommend starting with prayer, and then finding a way to kind of say, okay, how am I going to put myself out there? How am I going to become, uncomfortable in the places that I know people may not understand? You look at all these street preachers that go out and preach online, from the videos that get posted on Instagram, TikTok, all of it. And you think, how do they do it? And I think it's just a little bit more bigger than that. I think it's more or less, you don't know what kind of crowds you're going to go into. You don't know what kind of people you're going to run into. But I think this can be a good thing, because sometimes that's what people need. Sometimes people out there who don't know Jesus, or maybe do, but don't live about it, they need someone to give them that encouragement. And that's where we come in as followers of Jesus, to say, you know what? I'm going to go out there and love these people. I'm going to go out there and do these things. I'm going to go out there and preach these things to these people. Even if I get hated on, if I get, whatever. People, say all sorts of things to me. People like to just, spit all the words in the dictionary to you. Even if people do that, I am not going to give in, because I know that all people need is just a little bit of love. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody does. I think in the end, that's what everybody wants. I saw this video once where it says, at the end of the day, when we're on our deathbed, all people want is to say that they were loved. That's all they want. They want to say they were loved, but they know that God loves them. But they want to feel that from other people. And that's where we come in and say, you know what, because Jesus loved me, I'm going to go love them. This can be very challenging. So I think this kind of goes well into what we can do as we go out to preach to people. Judgment. Judgment is a very, very challenging thing. All of us have fallen to it. All of us have. I admit I fall into this all the time. But what I can say is, the way that I'm tackling this is through one goal that I've set, is to listen more and to speak less. And really, the ultimate judgment, and for me, comes within my mind. You may see something about somebody, or someone may say something, you get a thought in your head like, oh, well, that's who they are. Or, oh, well, I don't like that about them. Or, oh, I, may not, stand with what you're saying. And so I believe that this is what we should do about this. I'm going to speak of a particular parable that Jesus uses in this section. It's verse 41 through 42. He says, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when you yourself fail to see the plank in your own eye? You hypocrite! First, take the plank out of your eye, and then you will see clearly how to remove the speck from your brother's eye. And then from my notes, I said, it is not fair to judge others by their sins, for their sins, when we ourselves are dealing with our own struggles. And then this one really kind of was put on my spirit. Allow God to work in you so that you can work for others. Man, that one just really hit deep for me. So judgment. What is judgment? It is the act of making a claim or assertion towards someone else that you may have no knowledge about. So maybe it's something about a particular person. Maybe there's a certain someone in your life that you may not feel the best towards. I believe that it is okay to disagree and agree with things. It is okay to say, I don't support that, but I'm still going to, respect you as a human. That's one way that I've gone about life is, if there's something that's said towards me, or something that is, maybe pushed towards me, I'm going to say, look, I said, I disagree with you, the way you choose to live your life. I disagree with the way you choose to do things, but I'm going to respect you as a human. Why? Because you're human, I'm human. You're dealing with your own struggles and battles, and so am I. But let's come to an agreement that, just because we live, these different types of lives, doesn't mean we should, bat heads at each other. I think this is one of the biggest things that we struggle with in this world is judgment. All of us face this, and none of us want to make these assertions. And I think the biggest place that we see this is out in public places. When we all come to church, we're all there for one reason, is to learn how to get better with God. And I think that's one thing that we all should be, taking out into the world, is not just having it in this just one place of the church. No, but it's saying, how do I take this out and show love to others? Again, this goes back, love your enemies. I'm not saying that, people that you disagree with are your enemy, but maybe if there's a particular person or a particular thing that's going on, don't just say, well, that's just how that is. That's just terrible. That's just the way it is. No, don't make that assertion. The main goal of this life is to really understand how you can grow with God, allowing God to work in you so you can work towards others, because others will see that it is not just you, but it is a higher power of the Most High Almighty, the one who shows mercy. And the fact that God showed mercy to us first, and now we are just recycling it back to others, shows that we're not just being there as, servants to say, well, I'm just going to help. No, we're saying, I want to support you because I see what you're struggling through. I see what you're facing. A friend of mine who comes to our small groups, who has been coming to our small groups, he came there over the last fall semester. We're getting ready to start back up here next week. told me that he was facing a lot of difficulties at home. He lost his job and he was just unsure about these things. He said people were just not treating him very well, and he was just having a hard time trying to move forward as far as finding himself getting into another career, and really finding a group of friends to surround himself with. And I felt that it was put on my spirit to go and speak to him and say, look, I said, I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to be, your friend. I want to be someone who can understand you. And just the way that he opened up to me and told me everything, I really felt that this was just incredible honesty. Even the people that you may not know much about, the people who you may think live one life, may be dealing with the complete opposite thing. And I remember one thing I told him was like, look, I was like, I get it. I was like, in life, you're going to have people who are going to disagree with you, people who are going to hate you, people who are going to say things to you. I was like, but you can't let that get to you. You can't just let that be the defining cause, because that's not who you are. If you're letting these things get to you, then you're just letting the enemy win. You're letting the enemy take hold of you. Don't let that become who you are. God knows who you are. If God is the only one who tells you these things and everybody else says these bad things, so be it. So be it. Allow yourself to be filled with the Spirit and be filled with who you're meant to be. Verse 45, which talks about a tree and fruit, says, as a man brings up good things out of good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings up evil things out of evil stored up in his heart, for the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. So if you want to be a better person, if you want to be a better servant, a better child of God, a better son or better daughter of God, your heart is the thing that has to change. Your heart. What is inside of you has to change. It's not about what's outside. So inside, your heart will influence what happens. Your heart influences what is displayed. What you display will show what type of true heart you have. And really, the way you can find out what this looks like is you can ask other people. Ask other people, hey, what do you notice about me? Is there something that I am doing that you see as, a flaw? Is there something that I am doing that you are not agreeing with? If you're in a relationship, you ask your significant other. If you're in your marriage, ask your spouse. A friendship, a church congregation, a workplace, whatever that looks like, ask people. The answer is always no until you ask. You don't really know what type of things you may be struggling with until you ask, because others see you more than you see yourself. The last person to see the changes within yourself is you. The first person to see it is God, but the next is the other people that you're surrounded with. So instead of trying to fix everything and think that you're doing better, first pray and then go ask your surroundings and you will see. Last thing, the wise and foolish builders. I think this particular section applies to me like so well because of the career field that I'm going into. I'm going into construction management right now in college, and I just love this particular message that Jesus speaks about kind of rooting at a great foundation. Verse 47 through 49, Jesus says, as for everyone who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what they are like. They are like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation of rock. When a flood came and a torrent struck that house, but could not shake it, because it was well built. But the one who hears my words, but does not put them into practice, is like a man whose house is built on the ground without a foundation. The moment the torrent struck that house, it collapsed, and its destruction was complete. So all will hear, but few will apply. With Jesus, no destruction will occur. So I think this is kind of a particular message of saying, hey, recognize that here's where you are right now. Here's where you are. Here's where you are. And here's where you want to be. How do I do that? It's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be constantly an up and down type basis. But the one thing that has always encouraged me, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is that God will break you to make you. Why? Because he knows that by your will, it is not possible, but by God's, it is. And I believe he calls us to root in a deep foundation, keeping him first, allowing him to be at every aspect, every first thing that you do, from the moment you wake up to the moment you lay your head to rest at night. That's today's encouragement. I'm going to go ahead and read today's daily prayer. Today is January 4th, and our prayer is in the book of Colossians, verse 1:13, which says, rescue. He has rescued us from the kingdom of darkness and transformed us into the kingdom of his dear Son. Father, sometimes I don't feel like being rescued. I want to leave me alone. But I know that you continue to chase me down and show me how much I am steeped in darkness and I have lost my way. Thank you. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for showing me my sin and error and for helping me to come to the light. I ask that you would continue to soften my heart and draw me to your Son. So Jesus is always going to be with us, always, when we seek him. Jesus stays in the same spot. It is us who are constantly moving around. And sometimes it requires us to kind of take a halt and say, okay, where am I? Where am I? And how do I get back to Christ? And putting him first. How do I make sure that I hear his message and then apply it to my own life? That's today's message. I hope you guys have had a great Sunday, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, boys.